Hey everybody, as you know, last week we did a video previewing what the Montreal Canadiens defense could look like heading into next season, so it only makes sense to look at what some of the forward combinations could be as well. If you haven't already, look down below in the right corner of this video and click that subscribe button for this channel. Now, the one thing that is fairly clear about the Montreal Canadiens forwards is down the middle of the ice. It looks as though Nick Suzuki is going to slot into that number one center position next year. Then the number two center position is going to likely go to Jesperi Kotkaniemi unless the Montreal Canadiens go out and make an addition that slots Kotkaniemi in that three hole or potentially adds another center just to put in that three hole and Kotkaniemi stays in that two hole as well. But it looks as though the Montreal Canadiens plan on having the kids in those top two center positions next season, but I still wouldn't be against them going out and acquiring a center. I know I preached this in videos past, but a player like Christian Dvorak makes so much sense for this Montreal Canadiens team and would really allow them to have that depth down the middle. Right now, though, you still have Jake Evans in that third-line center spot, and then the fourth-line center spot looks as though it will go to Cedric Paquette. So it really depends on how you look at the Montreal Canadiens elsewhere on the wings, because the wings look jam-packed right now, and there just seems to be too many bodies. I know you have Ryan Poehling down the middle of the ice, but I don't have high expectations going into training camp for him this season. I want him to continue to develop, and I don't think it would be the worst place in the world if he's stuck in Laval for another season. But if he proves me wrong in training camp and does make the team out of camp, then so be it. Depth is never a bad thing to have, but you particularly want it down the middle of the ice and on defense. But the Montreal Canadiens certainly have a surplus of wingers right now on their roster. They added Mike Hoffman in the offseason, but they also let Thomas Tatar go. But there are still so many bodies on the Montreal Canadiens wings right now that something likely has to give ahead of training camp. I know that Paul Byron will likely be out until at least December with his injury and his recovery time, but there are still so many bodies on the wings for this Montreal Canadiens team that it's really difficult to make appropriate line combinations at this current time. Looking at the forwards, though, I see no reason why the Montreal Canadiens shouldn't continue to use Nick Suzuki with Cole Caulfield and Tyler Toffoli. We know Toffoli was injured throughout the last half of this playoff run for the Habs, but this line did form a lot of chemistry throughout the playoffs, and I really think they make a lot of sense together. You have Caulfield and Toffoli, both two players that can certainly put the puck in the back of the net, and then you have Nick Suzuki who can do that as well, but he adds that element of playmaking and that defensive mindset as well, so I really like this line combination for the Habs. Now here's where things get interesting for who you want to pair up with Jesperi Kotkaniemi on that second line for the Montreal Canadiens. Personally, I think the best fit for him right now is with Josh Anderson and Jonathan Drouin. That duo together showed a lot of chemistry last season. I think if you add Jesperi Kotkaniemi to the mix on that line, you're really going to find out a line that can really put pucks in deep, they can control the play down low, and they also have that level of skill and speed that can really break out a game. And I think if this line is able to stay together for an extended period of time, that they will really find success together. Then you have the third line for this Montreal Canadiens team, and right now we still have Jake Evans slotted in at that third line center position, and I really could see a scenario where this is kind of like the Philip Deneau line last year, but in a bit more of an offensive role. You have Brendan Gallagher on the right side and Mike Hoffman on the left side. You kind of have some offensive ability on the line with Hoffman and Gallagher, but then you also have the defensive ability of Evans and Gallagher on that line as well to kind of counteract the minutes that you're giving Hoffman, because we all know that he has struggled immensely at even strength over the past few seasons. Then you have the fourth line, and right now I really see it as Paquette down the middle as that fourth line center, and then you have Yoel Armia, who's fresh off a nice contract extension with the Montreal Canadiens. And then on the left side is where things could get interesting as well, because there are still so many bodies you could pick from, but I think Matthew Pearl will get that position. He's a really good player that can add something to the Montreal Canadiens' second power play unit, and I think that's where they could really utilize his assets that he provides right now in the late stages of his career. So I think that that line makes a lot of sense as a fourth line, and that leaves Artturi Lehkonen and Paul Byron, who is injured, as the odd man out. I really believe that Artturi Lehkonen could be on the outside looking in headed into camp next season, and that he could be a body that is potentially moved. We know that they've talked about it already in this past year to move Lehkonen, and I really believe that could be the case ahead of next season. That's it for me today from Cook's Corner. As always, let me know in the comment section down below what you think the current line combinations for the Montreal Canadiens should be heading into next season, assuming they don't make any trades. I'm Zach Cook. We'll see you later.